Thank you. Thanks for joining us. We are Stillwater Critical Minerals, the future of U.S. critical mineral supply, along with excellent projects to the south in Wyoming, neighboring state. Which way do I have to point that? All right. That was a forward-looking statement, and I'm sure I'll be making additional forward-looking statements. Critical mineral supply in the U.S. is our focus. We are the largest nickel resource in an active U.S. mining district. We also have 8 other minerals along with that the U.S. government lists as critical. We're well positioned in world-class geology with a producing miner right next door that is Sibanye. So the vision here is to become a primary source of low-carbon critical minerals in the U.S. We're very pleased to bring Glencore in as a major shareholder last June, 9.9% equity position, and they're just expanding that now. If you follow our news, we announced a placement weeks ago, and then the upsize of that placement with Glencore as a lead order for $2.1 million. We've now brought that book to nearly $4 million, and really glad to bring them in for more. They have warrants for an additional $6.76 million Canadian built in. And as the chart shows, they're excellent nickel experts globally, and we're glad to bring them to the producing Stillwater district. Beyond Glencore and the technical committee we have with them, we have a long-standing relationship with the USGS, data sharing. The U.S. Geological Survey, of course, is the gateway to U.S. government funding, and they've been studying the Stillwater district for decades. The Stillwater Igneous Complex is well known in geologic textbooks. We're also partnered with ARCA and DOE Cornell University on carbon sequestration and some other more interesting high-tech angles as well. That's Grishma Gadikota there, pictured, scientist at Cornell. Our board and the senior management team is exceptional. Great pleasure to work with all these good folk. I won't go into great dive here, given that we've only got 11 minutes and 45 seconds left. But I will touch on a few. I founded the company in 2007. Greg Johnson, glad to bring him in as chair. It's basically the Nova Gold playbook that we're following here. District scale acquisition during the bear market in a producing district and then build it out. Gordon Toll, builder of great mines, raised over $5 billion. Key names there on the left, Danny Grobler, Albie Britz. We brought Ivanhoe's chief geologist over from their Platreef project in South Africa. And he's now our Vice President of Exploration. That is Danny Grobler, and you'll see the significance of that in a minute. We are basically bringing these giant South African mine models to similar rocks in Montana. On that note, Mike Austenson there at the bottom right, he's got over 24 years experience at Stillwater, and he drilled all the core that we inherited with the project. So you're getting a handle here on how we're bringing the Stillwater district together with the Ivanhoe giant mine model. And Nora Pincus, last of all, certainly not least, most recent addition to the board, terrific depth in mine law and permitting and finance. Very glad to have her there. We have 5 projects in total, interests in 5 projects, to be clear, and I promise I won't talk about all of them at length. Gold project in Ontario that Heritage Mining is doing excellent work towards an earn-in district scale position. In the Yukon, our Klawani project, Critical Minerals, Canada, really good rocks in a good jurisdiction, excellent relation with First Nations there. We adjoin Nickel Creek Platinum, for those that follow that. And Duke Island, also Critical Minerals, and then a back-in right on a past producing high-grade mine in BC that is the Yankee Dundee mine. Everything else that follows here in the presentation is focused in Montana. As you can see from this slide, that is the 1.6 billion pounds battery metals, 3.8 million ounces PGEs in gold. That's the source of those numbers. One of the many nice things about the Stillwater District and Stillwater West project is the optionality that we're showing on mine method. So we have the bulk tonnage scenario up top there, 0.20% nickel equivalent cutoff grade. At that cutoff, 255 million tons at 0.39% nickel equivalent. That's the 1.6 billion pounds battery metals, 3.8 million ounces precious metals. You roll that through a mid-grade scenario and then onto the high grade at the bottom, 0.7% nickel equivalent cutoff. Tonnage comes down, but grades comes up. and we're head on at that point into the U.S.'s only producing nickel mine, which is the Eagle mine, currently producing in Michigan and set to close in a couple of years. Another good thing about Stillwater is how big the mineralized system is and how easily we can add pounds and ounces here. 62% increase in the resource with a very modest drill program. We're adding ounces and pounds at about 1 cent per pound nickel, about $1 per ounce palladium. It's a big and well-mineralized district, and there's lots going on, and it gives us optionality on grade as well. Results are pending from our 2023 drill campaign, resource expansion, and I'll touch on that more in a minute. Another attractive thing about this and about the Platreef model in general is the polymetallic nature of it. It's internally hedged in terms of commodities, which is so handy right now when markets are in turmoil and prices are up and down. We're mostly nickel, as you can see, 48% nearly by value, but we have significant copper, 500 million pounds of copper. And behind that in value is palladium, 20%. And then on down through gold, platinum, significant cobalt as well, which is very significant in the U.S. The government is asking us to focus on nickel and cobalt in particular. As mentioned, we have 9 commodities listed as critical here in the U.S. I think you'll see us look to build the supply chain for nickel and cobalt in particular, working with the DoD, DOE, and other U.S. interests. The reason for that focus by the U.S. government on nickel supply chain is that they have currently here in the U.S. just the one primary nickel mine, being the Eagle mine in Michigan, run by Lundin. It's a beautiful mine. It's small. It's high grade. Produces about 40 million pounds a year, and that's about 1/12 of what the U.S. consumes per year as of a few years ago. It will be mined out. I think they've added a year or two onto these numbers here, but as you can tell, it's not big. Talon, the Tamarack project run by our good friends at Tamarack, are doing great work. They also are kind of a small story. They're now drilling in Michigan, and you can see the way our resource, even in the high-grade category, is already approaching them in terms of size, and in the bulk scenario, we're bigger than both these two projects together. Key point to drive home is that we're in an active mining district. We've got a mine literally right next door to us, as you'll see in an upcoming slide here. You're all welcome to join us in Montana. That's what the country looks like. You've got the Stillwater mine opened in 1986 at the bottom right there. And then on the left, where's the pointer? Right there is an old chrome mine subsidized by the U.S. government in the war years. That's a key point. This district has been producing critical minerals for over 100 years, and in fact, the U.S. government has subsidized the production of critical minerals here. Our deposits are in the mountain down and left, along with most of Sibanye-Stillwater's deposits as well. And that's what it looks like in aerial view. So that picture we just saw was taken at the Stillwater mine, looking up at their tailings pond up there. And our core shack, should you come and visit us, is just in here somewhere. We share a district with a $5 billion major. It's very rare for a junior to be in this position. We have the entire lower Stillwater complex. You can see the roads. You can literally drive up to our drill rigs. The district is known currently for that JM Reef deposit right there. 1.8 meters wide, 40 kilometers across, and dipping under the state of Montana. Fantastic thing. One layer of a great big magmatic sequence. In total, 40 by 8 kilometers on surface, and one of the top 5 largest layered magmatic systems on Earth, and the biggest by far in the Western Hemisphere. Very good place to be for all these things. They're running on just under ½ ounce per ton grade in a nickel-copper sulphide matrix. They actually produce nickel sulfate for the battery industry in Columbus, Montana. They just don't report the quantities because they're so rich in palladium. What we're doing is not actually crazy and has actually been contemplated decades ago. This is the JM Reef deposit of my neighbor. That's approximately the location of their East Boulder mine. We're just in the lower sequence underneath them, and that is the direct parallel to Anglo-American's Mahalaquena mine, South Africa, and Ivanhoe's Platreef mine in South Africa. And that's why it's so significant that we brought the chief geologist over from Ivanhoe. This is looking like really big stuff. What does it mean to be Platreef? In mining terms, it means 8 billion pounds of nickel and copper, 95 million ounces PGEs in a mechanized underground mining scenario, or a pit mine, 15 billion pounds right next door, 152 million ounces in operation since 1993. These are the largest nickel mines in South Africa, full stop. And that's the model that we're bringing to Montana. So what does that mean for us? This slide, unfortunately, doesn't show you the JM Reef, but that surface projection of the JM Reef would be right there. So this is the correct setting for that Platreef-style mineralization. We hit 13.2 meters of 2.3% nickel, a bunch of other goodies within 401 meters of continuous mineralization. That's the basis for what I showed you there with the bulk tonnage, the mid-grade, and the high-grade. We're getting this everywhere we go. I'll come back to the 23-2 drilling in a minute. CZ deposit, and then the HDR deposit, 9 kilometers to the east. Same thing, percentage levels within mid-grade, within bulk tonnage. Last year, with Glencore's support, we focused on drilling off the west end there. 6 holes, those will be reported shortly. We went back to the core shack, did some physical properties in February. We typically assay in 2 tranches anyways. We're looking at 2 tranches of drill results here, one within the next week or 2, and then a following one after that. And we're excited to get those out. If you've seen pictures of the core in various news releases and in our presentations, you see why. Yeah, it's basically 5 deposits currently. These are the deposit models, set within high-level geophysical anomalies and open for expansion along that strike, and then more broadly within the 32-kilometer land position. It wants to get big. And at depth as well. That's looking 2 kilometers deep and 15 kilometers in strike. We're looking at deep feeder structures to the Stillwater complex. That was a forward-looking statement. So share price. We are, along with many of our peers in the general indices, we've suffered in the markets. That creates, of course, terrific opportunity. I think a great number of juniors here are doing good work and are significantly undervalued. Glencore came in for that 10% piece. They're now topping that up to 15. With that, we have about $6 million in the bank. The next news release will be the closing of that placement, probably drill results after that, and then plans, expansion plans, other good things we're working on with non-core assets. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap. 1 minute left for questions.
Well, thank you, Michael. I've got a quick question to kick it off. You've obviously been very good at attracting some very, from my opinion, the smartest guys in the room in terms of Glencore. But in your meetings with institutional investors, retail investors here and other events, what is your perception of why people aren't investing more in the critical metals exploration story, yourselves and others?
Yeah, it's interesting. The big funds just don't seem to have the money right now. The sector hasn't delivered for exactly that reason. A bunch of us have been going sideways. Our placement, to use that as an example, nice lead order from Glencore, and then checks of 10 to 150,000 from high net worth individuals and shareholders that are familiar to us. That seems to be the base right now. I can't speak to why people aren't backing quality projects with good management. I think they should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Can you just wait for the microphone, please, so we can tape it?
So I didn't realize until today that you guys do have a high-grade resource which within the big one. And so, I mean, do you think that'll be kind of a focus? Everybody says that grade is king, right?
Yeah.
Can you guys continue to build those high-grade tons, you think?
That was the focus of that drill program. That's why we focused off the west there. And you're absolutely right. That gets even a disproportionate weight in the retail market. The retail crowd needs to see percent level hits. The reality is big mines are often mid-grade or bulk tonnage. We know that. But the retail market needs that quick sugar hit. So yes, the ultimate story here, the one Glencore wants to see, other major parties we talk to, is probably that mid-grade or even the bulk tonnage. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. And that concludes this morning's session. Michael, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you. We didn't talk Straticac.